Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Radiantly Feminine podcast, where we embrace elegance, confidence, and the power of true femininity. I'm your host, Mookie. So whether you're looking to refine your presence, elevate your mindset, or even navigate relationships with ease, this is going to be your space to grow and glow. So sit back, relax, and let's unlock your feminine power together. Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I'm so grateful that you're here with me today because we're going to be diving into a topic that is the foundation of pretty much everything I talk about, and that is how loving yourself sets the tone for the people you connect with. This is the last episode of the season. I'm thinking about extending the amount of episodes per season after this, but that's besides the point. I wanted to end this season with an episode that delivers a beautiful and insightful message that will stick with you until the next season. So I want you to think of this topic this way. The relationship you have with yourself is the very first relationship you ever have. And it becomes the blueprint of how others learn to treat you. Because when you honor yourself, others will notice that. But when you neglect yourself, other people can pick up on that too. And don't even get me started on how many other doors you unintentionally open when you neglect yourself, because these openings tend to invite unhealthy dynamics into your life. It's a lot like leaving your house unlocked and expecting people to not walk in and take up space that doesn't even serve you. For example, manipulative people will see you as an easy target because if you are not grounded in self-worth, it's easier for them to exploit your kindness, your time, and your resources. You'll also be more prone to tolerating disrespect because you haven't established clear and strong boundaries and most likely ignored some red flags in the hopes that they will change or they didn't mean it or blah, blah, blah. You're also more likely to attract one-sided relationships and lose your identity because people who tend to take more than they give in relationships are drawn to people who overextend themselves. And when you're in these types of dynamics, people will project who they want you to be. So without that strong sense of self and the strong relationship with yourself, you'll slip into roles that they're trying to project onto you. And all of this will lead to burnout and resentment, which in turn take you further away from your authentic self and your feminine energy. So in this episode, I do want to talk about why self-love shapes every connection you have, how your energy shifts when you choose to prioritize yourself, the signs that you may be neglecting your self-love, and how that shows up in relationships. And I also want to go over some practical ways to deepen your self-love practices so you can naturally attract healthier connections starting today. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So I want to start off this episode by sharing a truth with you guys. People often mirror the way you treat yourself. I cannot stress this enough, and I've talked about this in numerous episodes. If you are tired of who you are attracting and who you are getting into connections with, you have to do some self-reflecting because the people you attract are a direct reflection of how you treat yourself. If you speak to yourself kindly, you're actually unconsciously teaching others that kindness is the standard when they approach you. If you constantly criticize yourself, you may find yourself attracting people who echo those same judgments back to you. If you don't love yourself, or if there are parts of yourself that you try to suppress because you don't like those parts of you, then you will indeed attract people who are incapable of loving you, or they're not emotionally available. Or you will have a difficult time recognizing real love and true care from others because when you're not used to practicing caring for yourself, it can feel normal when others neglect you or mistreat you. Let me give you guys an example. Imagine someone who constantly downplays their achievements. They might say, "Oh, it's not a big deal," or "Oh, I just got lucky." What happens? People around them stop celebrating them too. Why? Because they've set the tone that they're not worthy of celebration. On the other hand, when you celebrate yourself, even in subtle ways, others feel invited to celebrate with you. And that's why self-love isn't selfish. It's actually an act of leadership. You're actually showing others how to love you by simply choosing to love yourself first. And honestly, when you have neglected the relationship with yourself, that sends out both spoken and unspoken signals that say, I don't prioritize myself, so you don't have to either. But when you do nurture the relationship with yourself, you start sending a completely different message to others that says, I know my worth, and only those who respect it can stay around me. Or another example, let's say you've had a long, draining week at work. So you promised yourself that you would get some rest on Saturday, but one of your friends calls you at the end of the day asking to hang out because she needs to get out of the house because she's bored. Even though you're exhausted, you immediately say yes. Without even thinking about it, you just say yes because that's what you're used to and you don't want her to feel disappointed. But what you're actually doing is creating an inner dialogue that says, my needs don't matter. Other people's approval is more important than my own well being. And this can actually lead to unspoken resentment. It can leave you feeling depleted and maybe even unseen because you're not even seeing yourself. Now, let's try to flip this same scenario. Instead of saying yes immediately, you take a second to pause and check in with yourself and realize your body really does need to rest. So you kindly respond by saying, I wish I could, but I really need to recharge today. Can we go out another time? By choosing your needs first, you create a different inner dialogue that says, my needs matter, and taking care of myself is a priority, and I can still be supportive in ways that don't drain me. And choosing this more self-nurturing way can leave you feeling restored, it can leave you feeling respected, all while setting a boundary that teaches the people around you how to honor your energy. Now, here's the beautiful part in all of this. When you begin to treat yourself with true care, your energy shifts. That shift isn't just this I feel good type of energy, it actually changes how you move through the world. It changes how people perceive you and it changes what you attract. So you'll notice new opportunities start flowing towards you. So let's say your energy shifts from depletion to replenishment. Instead of running on fumes and burning yourself out, you start operating from a grounded, more steady place. Um, I used to be a people pleaser, and until I learned that people pleasing was a defense mechanism and a mask for me to put on to make sure people liked me, I had to endure hard lessons to help me understand that this was not a healthy way of living my life. And those lessons helped me to realize that people pleasing was depleting me of my energy and I wasn't being authentic to myself. So I'm glad that I'm not a people pleaser anymore because now I'm more grounded and operating from a steady and balanced place. You will also stop doubting yourself and learn to trust yourself each time you choose to nurture your relationship with yourself. It's just like saying, I've got me. And that builds confidence and helps you stay calm. You're showing yourself that no matter what happens, you're capable of handling it. And I'm going to be honest with you. When I dealt with manipulative people, I would always doubt myself and put my trust in them until I got to a breaking point and I had to take a really hard look at myself and ask myself why I was so willing to put up with this type of nonsense. I realized that nothing changes unless I changed. So I decided to take all of my trust I had put into those other manipulative people and start putting that trust back into myself. Another shift is when you move from chaos to clarity. And this happens when you nurture yourself so that it helps you hear your inner voice, your intuition, instead of being drowned by outside noise. And all of these shifts will come with some external changes. Your boundaries become natural and people will automatically sense that you respect yourself. So you'll notice more and more people start to approach you differently. What you attract will start to change too. You become more magnetic for what's better aligned with you, whether that's healthier people and situations, better opportunities, or healthy relationships, or a new career path. Your presence changes as well because you'll start to glow completely differently. And I just want you to think about the last time you took care of yourself. Maybe it was putting on your favorite outfit or taking the time to cook yourself a nice, nourishing meal or giving yourself permission to just simply rest. Notice how your energy felt lighter and more magnetic. That is the magnetic energy that people connect with. They may not always know why, but they feel drawn to you because your self-love is radiant. And on the flip side, when we neglect ourselves or when we're burnt out, or when we overextend ourselves, or when we accept breadcrumbs, we send a different signal. We might attract relationships that take more than they give, or friendships that feel completely one sided. Loving yourself isn't about perfection. It's about constantly choosing you. And when you do consistently choose yourself, you create relationships that feel balanced, respectful, and nourishing. Now, for some people, it's not always obvious when they're neglecting themselves or when we're neglecting self love. So let's talk about a few signs. If you constantly over explain or defend yourself, this shows that you don't fully trust your worth without justification. So that over explaining or those explanations feel like they're a requirement to you. If you feel guilty for saying no, this suggests that you're prioritizing others at your own expense. You're putting other people's needs above your own. If you shrink in rooms instead of standing tall, I want to ask, is that an inner belief that you don't belong, or is that a signal to go back and water your roots? Or if you attract people who drain you, if you're not filling yourself up, you may subconsciously allow others to keep taking from you without being reciprocal. And I share these signs with you because recognizing these signs is not about beating yourself up. It's about noticing where you can pour more love into yourself. Every time you catch yourself, it's an invitation to return back to your authentic self. And I've honestly gone through each of these signs myself at different times, of course, especially the last one. I used to over explain myself so that people wouldn't misunderstand my words or my actions, when the truth was, I didn't trust myself. And I needed the external validation that whatever I was doing or saying was okay in someone else's eyes. And I would constantly feel guilty for saying no because I hated feeling disappointed. So I would put everyone else's needs above my own. But looking back, the self abandonment was just my way of not becoming a disappointment to others. And for so long, I was afraid to take up space, to be put on the spot, and to be seen. So instead, I shrank myself and became more agreeable. And this just simply caused me to lose sight of my own identity. I was so far away from my authentic self, I started to actually become who people needed me to be. All of this led up to me attracting people who drained me. I was entering one sided friendships after the other. I was entering into romantic relationships that left me feeling depleted and worthless because that's how I truly felt on the inside. And it wasn't until I changed my self perspective or my self perception, I started nurturing the most important relationship in my life, which was my relationship with myself. I began to honor my needs, my time, and my energy. And little by little, things began to change. One by one, relationships that thrived on my overgiving naturally just fell away. Friendships that required me to put their needs above my own started to dissolve away because I developed a new set of standards that allowed me to say no without feeling guilty. And relationships ended not because I was unkind or uncaring, but because I stopped trying to fit into spaces where I wasn't truly seen. I started operating from a grounded, more authentic place. And the truth is, authenticity is magnetic. So, as I became more aligned with my own values and self worth, I began attracting people who honored me, who uplifted me, and who added positive energy into my life. And I'll be honest, it's not easy letting go of what I thought I needed to keep, but the freedom that came from prioritizing myself was life changing. And I realized that boundaries are not walls, they are gates that protect your energy while making room for what truly belongs in your life. Now, I'm not telling you that relationships start to fall apart when you nurture your relationship with yourself to scare you or encourage you to push people away. I'm telling you this because as your relationship with yourself changes, you start to make room for relationships that reflect the love, the respect, and the care that you are showing yourself now. And the relationships that don't reflect the new relationship with yourself naturally fall apart because they're taking up space that no longer serves you. Now, let's talk about what you can actually do. How can you love yourself in a way that sets the tone for every relationship in your life? You have to be willing to set clear standards. Standards are different from expectations because standards are about what you will and won't allow. They protect your energy and help filter out relationships that do not serve you. This is the first thing I want you to start practicing because it's important to know your boundaries and your values so you can not only know what behaviors you will and will not tolerate, but you'll also start to treat yourself better as well. You can do this by taking some time out of your day to write down at least 5 non-negotiables for yourself. I'll give you an example. Stop answering work calls or work emails after work. Or stop spending time with people who do not respect you or your time. I would recommend storing this on your phone, storing your non negotiables on your phone so that you can review them on a weekly basis just to help remind you that these new standards are a form of self respect and they are not selfishness by any means. Then I want you to start celebrating yourself every day. This is simply just acknowledging those small wins, your effort, and even your progress towards a big goal. I keep a note on my phone to write down at least 3 things that I did well or things that made me smile. Even if it's something I do every day, like going to the gym to work out or eating healthy, to me, that's worth celebrating because it supports my goal of being salubrious. So for you, these celebrations can be both external and internal accomplishments. For example, if you spoke up for yourself today, that counts as just as much as you getting promoted at work. And you can write them down, say them out loud, or even share them with a supportive friend who's going to celebrate that moment with you as well. You will also need to start practicing compassionate self talk. This involves you speaking to yourself the way you would to your best friend. Given that you do speak to your best friend better than your negative self talk. So this involves you just switching that from being a critic to a more compassionate person. You have to start by noticing your inner dialogue. When you hear yourself being critical, pause and reframe. Instead of saying something like, I can't do anything right, say, I'm learning and I'm proud I tried. And after you start noticing your inner dialogue, take it a step further and say one compassionate thing to yourself in the morning when you wake up and at night before you go to bed. And this can actually help rewire your brain to be supportive instead of critical. And I've actually done this with my therapist. She told me to start off by just noticing when I'm speaking negatively towards myself. I really didn't notice how often I was doing it until I started paying close attention. Next, you'll need to start resting without guilt. I think it's important because you're giving yourself the treatment you deserve. You're giving yourself permission to pause, recharge, all while honoring your body's needs. And rest is actually an important act of self-love in a world that glorifies burnout. You can start doing this by simply scheduling time on your calendar to be unplugged, just as if you were scheduling a meeting. You have to commit to it. No screens, just you and silence. And the last practice I have is to start surrounding yourself with mirrors. And when I say mirrors, I mean people who reflect your best self. This means being around people who respect you, your time, your energy, and people who reflect your values and who uplift and support you. Not people who need the old version of you that doesn't know her own value. You can start doing this by evaluating the current relationships that you have. Try to point out the ones that drain you versus the ones that support you. You need to prioritize spending time with people who honor your boundaries and celebrate your growth and not the opposite. And start to reduce the energy spent on those who consistently bring you down. Now, when you implement these self-love practices, you don't have to demand respect or beg for love. You become it, and naturally it flows back to you. So at the end of the day, loving yourself isn't just a personal journey. It's literally the foundation for every connection you'll ever have. So if you're finding yourself having the same outcome with each romantic relationship where it's just not going past the dating stage or the boyfriend girlfriend stage, you need to self-reflect and deepen the relationship that you have with yourself. And that's where you will see the improvement with your other relationships. And the more you practice self-love, the less you tolerate what doesn't align with you. You stop negotiating your worth, you stop chasing validation, and you start attracting relationships, friendships, romances, and partnerships that feel aligned, reciprocal, and genuine. So here's what I want you to take away from this episode. When you love yourself deeply, you create a new standard, and everyone you connect with rises to meet it. So I do want to thank you guys so much for sharing this time with me today. If this episode did resonate with you, I'd love it if you shared it with someone who could hear this message today. And don't forget to follow the show so you never miss an episode. Until next time, remember, self-love isn't selfish. It's the seed for every beautiful connection you'll ever have. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.